Hello everybody, thank you very much. Buenos días, muchas gracias a todos, a la Junta de Galicia, a FEUGA.
Thank you to the Junta de Galicia, FEUGA, and everybody for inviting us to this seminar. I am going to speak about the challenges in mobility in Cluster 5 of Horizon Europe. The part of mobility, CDTI in Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, has been divided into two big areas. The one to do with aeronautics and planes. For the part of planes and so on, the great partnerships, you will have Juan Francisco Reyes, who's got great experience in aviation aircrafts, and I'm sure many of you will know him. And for the part that is not related to aeronautics, for railways, for green automobiles, naval, sea, and so on, I am at your disposal. Our contact details are the ones on the screen. So we are both in charge of this cluster and at your disposal to help you participate in Horizon Europe and improve the rate of success in this very interesting program. Together with Juan Francisco, we carry out presentations where we explain how we have integrated climate, energy, and mobility in this cluster 5. Having a look at the past, I will present very briefly all the research lines and all the topics that are open for the next calls. The first one is closes at mid-January. A couple of weeks ago, the last calls were closed, and last I will tell you about the last institutional partnerships that are being elaborated. We have some information about them, but the calls have not been opened yet. Let's start by telling you how we have reached this point. This is something that had been announced for many years. I would like to make reference to what happened in the year 2011 in research and development in the area of transport, because the white paper on transport was published in 2011, and they established a strategic agenda of research and development and some challenges that are still current for the year 2050. In the year 2011, some challenges were established for the year 2050. This agenda was published in the year 2011, which was usually, I suppose that it was started to be conceived in the year 2008, and it established challenges which are so current, such as not having traffic victims, not having logistics within a city which has carbon emissions. All these challenges were already established in the past. There was great challenges of decarbonization, which have been obviously updated after the parties' conferences and the last challenges that have been established in transport worldwide. This impacted the 7th framework program in the part of aeronautics and also in the part of Horizon 2020 devoted to transport. Throughout all these years, many documents have been published, and all of them have had an impact on the calls that we will have in the future. We can start talking about the strategic agenda of the transport sector, STRIA, which was adopted in the year 2017. This strategic agenda gave us some clues of the future steps. This strategic agenda depended mostly of the energy union. It was not only devoted to transport, it was not like the white paper for transport, it already depended of the energy sector. Then next, we can identify the impact the three mobility packages had. the ones that were published in the year 2017 and 2018, and all they proposed a connected, cleaner mobility, and they put an special emphasis on the research and development of batteries, the importance of having in Europe not only the knowledge, but also as manufacturing chain in order to be able to supply the products to the great integrators. Then we had the European industrial strategy, the Green Deal, and also the proposal of the European climate law. All this important document had an impact, and they conformed the program of work of Horizon 2020. Then first it was the part of mobility in 2014, then the part of autonomous transport, road transport was created, and then the part of the green vehicles, which was started from the year 2007, and then there were new appendices which were devoted to research in batteries and so on. So we have a work program devoted to European transport, which is, it absorbs, it's influenced by all the great documents that are published, but it is also true that the projects that you are development, regardless of the size of these projects, are having an impact not only on these policies, but also in future calls. That is why the research you're carrying out is so important. We can see in these documents that there's many references to very, very important projects that are part of these great strategies, regardless of the budget of your projects, no matter how small or medium, 5 million euro projects, they can all influence these great European strategies and that have an impact on the long term. At the end of last year, together with the approval of Horizon Europe, the strategy of sustainable mobility was published, which was based on 3 big pillars: sustainable mobility, smart mobility, and resilient mobility. And this sustainable mobility strategy is going to have an impact on the whole mobility cluster 5, in the same way as the white paper on transport had an impact. So what we have to do is to work together in the same cluster with the same challenge, together with the part of climate, energy, and mobility. And the budget we have in this European program is of 15 billion euros since the year 2021 to the year 2027. Here you can see the results of the Spanish entities in the Horizon 2020 for transport. The results have been excellent. We are the 4th member state with better results, and many Galician organizations are a part of this success. More than 530 million euros have been obtained by the national organizations that participated in the projects. In the part of the work program, we have achieved a return of 8.6%. And in the part of the great partnerships, we have exceeded the great goals that we had set, because these goals established that we had to reach a 9.5 return, and in the European calls and in the part of aeronautics, we have reached 11.7% in CSAR, 17.57% in the part of railways, 16.56%, and in the part of green vehicle, 9.81%. In all the parts, we have exceeded the target of 9.5%. But now Spain has established some much higher targets in Horizon Europe. The present strategy in Horizon Europe establishes that we must reach an 11% return. That is a great challenge for all of us. in all of the areas, both in the areas that have been successful in the past and also in the areas where we have not been as successful. If we have a look at the work program distributed among different sectors, we can see that the results of the Spanish entities are extraordinary in parts such as the part of infrastructures. We reached the 18% of the return in the part of batteries that was started in the year 2018. We also have fantastic results. We reached 10% in the part of logistics. In batteries, we are in the 12% in the part of logistics. We're above 10% in the part of urban mobility, 10%, but there's other parts which are particularly important where we expect to have better results. Worse results, we have them in the part of sea transport with results of around 4%, and in the part of mobility, autonomous mobility by road with results of 4% too. I'm sure that we can improve this part because we have great capacity in Spain and also in Galicia to develop great European projects. Now we're going to move on to the description of the topics of destination 5 and 6, which are the destinations that are 100% focused on the part of mobility. I'm sure you know that the total budget of Europe, Horizon Europe is 95.5 billion euro. The part of climate, energy and mobility has a budget which is slightly above the 15 billion euros, which is a great amount. We don't know the distribution for each one of these great areas. We don't know how much is going to be assigned to the part of climate, but a big part of the transport project deal with climate too. We don't know how much is going to be assigned to the part of energy, but also the part of mobility is linked to the part of energy. And we don't know what budget is going to be distributed to the part of mobility. We don't know exactly, but we think that is going to be quite a significant budget. And these three areas are greatly interconnected. Although we don't know what the budget is going to be for climate, for energy, or for mobility, we can establish a division between two big parts. The part that is going to be carried out by great institutional partnerships and the part that's going to be carried out by means of work programs. The part which is going to be carried out of this 15 billion euros by means of great institutional partnerships, then we will see the detailed implementation of these partnerships. But we're going to establish two great blocks, the work program and the great partnerships. In the year, the great partnerships until the year 2027, there are 6.8 billion euros assigned, which is practically 50% of the budget of cluster 5 is going to be used for lines of work and topics which have been launched by great institutional partnerships. These great institutional partnerships, like the one you can see at the top of the slide, can launch their own calls outside the work program, and they can also be integrated within the work program. Let's go to the institutional partnerships that will have their own calls. And at the end of the presentation, I'll describe them very clearly. Within these institutional partnerships, which have their own management office and that launch their own calls, and that is a part of the funding of the European Union, we have 4. The first one of them is to do with railways. Europe's Rail, it has 0.6 billion euros, which is increased from the 0.45 billion euros that they had in Europe 2020. We have the institutional partnership of integration in the airspace, Single European Sky ATM research, with a budget which was similar to the one we had in Horizon 2020. Clean aviation, 1.7 billion euros, which is similar to what we had in the Horizon 2020. And in clean hydrogen, 1 billion euros, with a great increase because of the importance these technologies are going to have in the future. We have almost double the budget we had, 0.66 billion euros in Horizon 2020. All this corresponds to the area of energy, although they are going to develop energies that are then going to be applied on transport systems, but this has been put in the part of energy. And then we have the own parts of the work program. Then we have the great partnerships that are co-programmed, which you will find in the fourth part of this slide. You see the development of a road transport towards a zero-emission road transport. 615 million euros, which is less than the 750 million euros that we had in AIDS 2020. These great partnerships will launch the topics within the work program that has the calls open. We also have the new partnership regarding batteries, 925 million euros. Why is this new? It's new because the mobility strategies and all the European documents put a special emphasis on batteries. In AIDS 2020, initially we did not have any research on batteries with its own area. At the end, we had an annexum and an appendix, and now we have their own area. We have a new partnership for the development of zero-emission waterborne transport, 530 million euros. We have a new partnership, the development of an automatic connected mobility system, 500 million euros, but this was started, it has some history in the previous AIDS 2020. The last co-program partnership is the partnership for the development of a sustainable built environment built for people, 380 million euros, which has diminished from what we had in Horizon 2020. Therefore, the partnership of hydrogen and construction, my colleagues Luisa and Cristina are the contact points. Now we're going to describe the topics that appear in the present calls that are now open within the part of mobility. Within the part of mobility of the 6 destinations, we have 2, mostly the part of batteries, the part regarding cities, and we also have destination 5 and 6. Destination 5 is going to focus on the implementation of the topics of the partnership towards the development of a zero-emission road transport. And then there's some topics that don't belong to any partnership. We have topics related to sea transport. Some of them will belong to the partnership and others will not belong to the partnership. We also have topics outside any type of partnership launched in Horizon Europe related with the environment and with health. All this is a part of Destination 5. Within Destination 6, we will find the topics that implement the partnership of mobility, of cooperative and connected mobility. And we will also find the topics which don't belong to any partnership, topics related to the sustainable transport of passengers and goods. We will find topics of the area of infrastructures, of logistics, and we will also find topics that are outside any partnership, topics related to resilience and to security. The general snapshot of the topics This is the general snapshot of the topics we will find in the next work program. We have topics. The first deadline is 12th of January. Others will have the deadline the 26th of April. And other topics will be the deadline in September next year. For the call of the year 2022, we will have a budget of 599 million euros. And we expect to accept around 90 projects in 2022. Specificity of the topics that are launched within co-programmed partnership is that differently to the general rule of Horizon Europe, where the private entities usually request 70% grant in the actions for innovation. In partnerships that launch topics within the work program, the grant for private entities is not 70%, it's 60%. This is a pilot project that has been launched during these first calls, the one of last year and the one for this year. Within the framework of these mobility topics, there's some flexibility in some topics where the limit of pages is not 45, but the applicants have the option of extending the report and reach even 70 pages. This is very, very clearly explained in the description of the topics. So two important points that complement the general rules. The grants for the innovation actions in the topics of mobility launched by co-program partnerships for private entities is not 70%, but 60%. And in some mobility topics, you can write up to 70 pages, like what we had in H2020 transport. Now we're going to move on to the great topics of Destination 5 and Destination 6. The first group of topics are the topics related to the area of batteries. The area of batteries comes from the partnership of batteries, which has its design focus in the launching of technologies that later will be integrated in mobility application and in stationary applications. In the stationary applications, we do not have any great partnership apart from clean hydrogen and for people, but in the applications of mobility, we have great partnerships related to transport, road transport, railway, and the sea sectors. The philosophy we have here is that the great technologies related to the development of materials to cells and the modules of the systems of batteries that are going to supply the transport systems will be developed as a part of this partnership. And this will be integrated in the corresponding partnership of the transport area. However, the stationary partnerships will be integrated in this partnership. In both applications, we will have a project dealing with the end of life of these batteries. We will find 10 topics in the part of, in the area of batteries. The topics in the last year were focused mostly on road transports, but they always established links with stationary applications. We will have 10 great topics that will research priority areas. For example, the development of materials such as graphite, the development of platforms for discovering new materials by the combination of artificial intelligence and big data. Also, the battery management system, which is one of the great added value parts of the European industry. We have great opportunities in both sectors in these calls. Next, we have the topics that come from the sea partnership. The goal is decarbonization. So we're going to focus on the greenhouse gas emissions, and we're going to be focusing on air and water pollution. Within these sea topics, we will have the first four that are part of the partnership. They are related to developing new systems of energy efficiency in the vessels and exploiting renewable energy sources. And we will also have two topics related to sea transport, which are not a part of the partnership. The two topics at the bottom, topic 5 and 6. In these topics, the limitation of 60% for the private entities does not apply. The private entities in these two topics will get a grant of 70%. These topics are the development of the autonomous waterborne freight feeder, loop service, and the development of tools for shipbuilding. So these are 100% related to the sea. Then we have other topics that are outside any kind of partnership in order to reduce the episodes, the smoke episodes. We have the images that come from Beijing. We have to avoid this happening in the cities in Europe. There's the Partnership 2.0, which is one of the eldest. It was started in the year 2007. In the year 2007, we had an economic recession, and as a part of the Barroso plan, the Green Cars Initiative was launched. It was exclusively green vehicles. At that time, it was 500 million euros. But later, the horizon in Europe was changing, and it was focused on the green vehicle. And now we have the new partnership, which is 2.0, which has 615 million euros budget, and it moves around three axes. The first axis is around vehicles, and here is where we will research exclusively the topics related to 100% electric vehicles or battery plug-in battery vehicles. So the scope of the vehicles has been limited with the passing of time.
I was saying this partnership also has one axis focusing on the integration of electrical vehicles in cities to foster mobility of people and goods. Also taking into account the impact on the whole life cycle of these solutions that are included in the road transportation system. This is one of the four main axes that nurture the future topics that we will have, like the development of a multi-powertrain for zero-emission systems for road transportation vehicles. Also, things related with buses will be research, electrical buses for cities. We will have four topics, and also topics focusing on the new autonomous mobility partnership. This is a new one that will have three stages strategically, 3 phases and 7 areas. The first one are the main European demonstrators of autonomous driving, then the validation of the technologies, the integration of the vehicle in the transport system within the framework. Well, to link it also with the railway system and the maritime system, the identification of key technologies, key enabling technologies, the 6th axis, is taking into account the population and the key needs for the adoption of these technologies, so that people trust that the things that are developed are safer and that these things are perceived as safe. Therefore, this partnership will be implemented from 2022 onwards through several topics like the deployment of large European demonstrators, the protection of occupants with key technologies, and two further topics for the integration of connected driving systems in city systems. There are also three topics that do not belong to any large partnerships. One for the development of a more resilient airplane or aircraft, and then one outside the maritime partnership focusing on the following. If there is a fire in a ship, then an RD research will be carried out. We also have topics focusing on multimodal transportation, infrastructures. I think that the next session will focus on a project which is already implemented where the University of Vigo participates. I'm sure that in infrastructural topics, you will find a complement to that research. We currently have infrastructure topics that put the focus on the development of sustainable infrastructure, the development of infrastructure focusing on river transportation, of fluvial transportation, and that's not part of any partnerships. Lastly, just to conclude, there's also a chapter on large institutional partnerships. We have three, the railway one, and in aeronautics we have two. One focusing on the aircraft cell and the integration in the airspace. These three partnerships are being reviewed by the European Parliament and the Council of Europe. The next calls are expected to be launched at the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, the first drafts of the regulations were published, and they established the general principles for the functioning that you can see on this link. Also, for these three partnerships of the transportation systems, railway, aviation, the main actors that want to participate and contribute to these technologies were identified. Also, for the launching of the topics. Here you have the proposal of all these partnerships. For instance, one of them has a budget of 600 million euros and is related with railway technologies. The regulation of the council, you see that there are 600 million euros proposed that still has to be approved by the parliament and the council. The main working lines are also related with the previous Shift to Rail program. It focuses on demonstration areas, on autonomous railway systems, the inclusion of the RMTS, door-to-door integration. Also, groundbreaking technologies in the railway sector, like progress in the Hyperloop system. This is all included in the draft of the council. All calls to be launched, and not only for Europe's rails, but also in the two other partnerships. These are going to be open calls with the support of the entities that are members and that will support this 600 million euros together with the European Commission's. These 600 million euros will be supported with an economic contribution of at least additional 600 million euros by the founding members. These partnerships with 1.7 million euros provided by the European Commission and this will be balanced by the founding members. Clean Aviation has developed its strategic research agenda. It will develop demonstrators, but main news could be, for instance, the introduction of hydrogen technologies. The introduction of hydrogen technologies, both for the development of hydrogen planes and the use of hydrogen as a fuel, of course, taking into account new aircraft architecture, both for long-haul airplanes as short-haul planes, and, of course, electrical planes. Demonstrators will be developed for that, and since key technologies move around hydrogen and batteries, it will have a direct link with the batteries partnership. This is an example showing that the batteries partnership within the work program that I showed before in the future could launch topics for the development of R&D research lines, with the idea of seeing how the modules or cells of those batteries for planes could be, in order to bring those results to a topic that could launch, for instance, a clean aviation partnership or joint calls. For instance, in the field of railways, there's the Europe Rail institutional partnership and the batteries partnerships. These are two examples that show that, first of all, research for modules and cells will be carried out in the batteries partnerships, and then it will be integrated following the criteria together with the founding members of these large partnerships like the railways or the aviation one. And then we have the partnerships of integrated air traffic management. This partnership has a duration which is similar to the H2020 transportation partnerships. It will focus on automatization, data sharing, services for an efficient integration of aircrafts in the airspace, virtualization of the airspace so that it is continuous and not divided, as it used to happen years ago. On airways, also in terms of the safety of the space. This was one of the main partnerships with Clean Cars and Clean Aviation. They were launched in 2007, so they have quite a history behind them. My colleague Cristina showed you many links which are still available in terms of mobility. Here you have our contact data for the whole CDTI team. Lydia and Juan Carlos focus on the climate, energy, Maria Luisa and Cristina, and for mobility. Well, for mobility, as I said, Juan Francisco Reyes, my colleague, for aviation, and also for mobility, I'm at your disposal for the railways and maritime and conducting driving partnerships. And that's it on my side. Thank you very much. I'm at your disposal.